Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. In today's breakdown video, we're doing a breakdown on Remington, you'll see why in just a second, Nitro steel, 3.5 inch. Obviously this being 10 gauge, they're all 3.5 inch these days, unless you go with Salt Creek or RST. They still do load the old classic 2 7/8 inch, but other than those two companies, I can't think of anyone else still putting them out. Winchester does offer a blank, but that's not really ammo. 1450 FPS, 1.5 ounces of 2-shot. I meant to order the BB or triple B, and I guess I messed up and ordered the 2-shot. Anyway, these are, well, they're not Remingtons anymore. If you guys know what Federal 10 gauge hulls look like, this is it. We even have a Federal 209A primer. But it says Remington, so I guess it's a Remington. As for the box though, I gotta say, this is one of the coolest looking SHOT Show boxes ever. Not only is it giant, like massive, it just looks awesome. We have a duck on it, we have some hay in the background, I believe that's hay. We have the United States map on there. It's not a map, you guys know what I mean. Full payloads, full patterns, full limits. This is not just boring yellow and green, it's got a bunch of stuff on it. Again, it's just a nice looking box. If you guys want to read anything, just pause it, but it's just warnings and some stuff about mossy oak, shadow grass. We done seen the top of it. What's the bottom of it look like? Just says Remington Nitro Steel with a barcode, nothing of note there. The other side of the box is more warnings. Again, if you guys want to read any of it, just pause it, although I'm sure everyone knows, you know, safety precautions with all this. Who wants to read any of that? But let's turn this upside down here and get you guys a view of this. Looks like it's just powder or wad and shot. Now, I know that's not true because Federal does put a, it's not buffer, it's plastic beads. Voice crack, but yeah, plastic beads in their steel shot as filler. It's not in all of them, but some that do require filler have little plastic beads. We've seen that before. But our exclusive wet-proof process provides moisture resistance at the crimp. Are these sealed? Didn't really bother looking before. Yeah, looks like we have some sort of sealant on there. I can see some shininess. What else is here? What kind of wad is this? Not a flight control. It's probably just a regular steel shot wad, I would assume. Full payloads of 100% round premium galvanized steel shot. I would not call this a full payload. That was my 16 gauge press top falling over, but that's okay. I have seen Remington and Heavy Shot put out 1 3/4 ounce steel shot payloads in 10 gauge, so I would not call 1.5 ounce full, because as many of you 10 gauge guys know, the steel shot does come in a very common 1 5/8 ounce charge too, which is again more than 1.5 ounces. So I'm not sure why they're putting full payloads on there when it's clearly not even close. Anyway, moving on from the box, here's what the hull looks like. Very tall brass. I think it's 20 millimeter, 1820, something like that. It's taller than 16 anyway, but it's not brass. Again, it's brass-plated steel with a 209A primer. Head stamp says Remington 10 gauge Peters, although it should say Federal, but it's green. I never thought I'd see a Federal 10 gauge hull in anything but brown, but here we are. 10 gauge, 3.5 inch, 89 millimeter. If I'm not mistaken, Federal 10 gauge hulls are 87 millimeter, not 89. The actual Remington 10 gauge hulls are 89 millimeters, or actually sometimes 90. But it does say, well, it said Nitro, what's that say? Nitro Steel, hard to read. HV something Magnum, HV Magnum, 1450 FPS, 1.5 ounces of 2-shot. Remington Max 1050 bar, which I assume that means these are loaded to max pressure, which for 10 gauge is 11,000 psi, and it does have a 6-point fold crimp, although the crimp on this one is kind of offset and uneven. This side of it right here at the top is a lot more shallow than it is over here. It's almost double the depth, but I think I can correct that. Kind of a sloppy intro, but I'm not going to redo it, so let's crack this open and see how they threw this together. For those of you that care, today's snooze and drink combo is Rotolacket Loose and Coke Zero. Very basic, but very good. Okay, so starting with the shot, we are a little bit shy of that advertised ounce and a half at 1.483, which is close enough. That's just 3 or 4 pellets shy. Not unusual at all, but right there you can see the little plastic pellets I was talking about. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually the colored pellets that they melt down to use or to make their 12 gauge, 28 gauge, 410 shot shells. It's the same maroon color. Again, if I'm wrong, correct me. But I think that's what that is. But the shot itself does look really nice. It all appears to be the same uniform size. Number 2 shot, very shiny, very round. No rust like I've seen in other factory steel shot. Nothing to complain about here, although some of the plastic beads are different colors. That one right there, center screen, is very dark. So here's the wad. It's brown. You would expect that from Federal with their 10 gauge. The wad is also brown, just like the hull. The Federal 10 gauge flight control wads I've seen are 90% of the time brown, although the Black Cloud version of it has a black flight control wad. But it does remind me of a TPS, just a lot thicker and a lot sturdier. It's sort of a TPS combined with the Tupperware wads from Precision, but they are the same height as a TPS. Try and get this lined up here. Yeah, it's the exact same height as a TPS wad. But notice the pedal thickness on the TPS here. By comparison, they are pretty thin. That is a much, much thicker, heavy-duty wad. Whoa. It's hard to bend. That's a sturdy wad right there, guys. Here's the hull. Once again, this is a Federal hull. I did punch the primer out. Someone mentioned he wanted to see the primer out of the hull too. Not really sure why, but I'll do it. Or I did it for you. Hold on, I'll show the primer in just a second. But to confirm even further that this is a Federal hull, you can see that that is a fiber base wad, the exact same as a Federal 10 gauge hull. And here is a Federal hull, just for comparison. You can see the splines on them, the ribbing is exactly the same. The brass height is, line this up, I'll set it down. The brass height is exactly the same. The same base wad, if I can get it in the light, there you go. You can see the same base wad. This has been fired, so it's kind of dark, but notice the ring around the primer in there. The Remington here has the exact same ring. They are the same hull, both Federals. Sorry for the out of focus. But here's the primer. It is a copper washed primer with a regular steel battery cup. And I'm not sure if this is a 209A. It does have a yellow sealant in there. The 209As are pink, sometimes blue, but that is yellow. If you guys know exactly what this is, let me know. And for a charge, we have 48.2 of a blended powder. And if I'm not mistaken, this is actually the same powder that we saw in Federal Premium copper-plated 20 gauge number 3 buck. Yeah, I think it is the same powder. You can see the yellow flakes in there. Some of them are brown, I seen a second ago. Let's get a better look at this powder. Once again, this does appear to be the same powder I found in those Federal Premium 20 gauge number 3 buck shells. We have a flake powder, so cylindrical chunks for lack of a better term. A yellow flake right there center screen, and a little bit above that, an orange flake, orange, red, brown, whatever. But it appears to be 4 different powders blended in one. Alright, so let's slap all this back together and see if I can make it look presentable. I'm pretty sure I can get a better crimp than what Federal had on it, But I'll have to separate the steel from the little plastic beads with the magnet. That's no problem. But let's go. Well, the answer to that was no. The plastic is too set in its ways. You can see it's still kind of lopsided. I'll seal that up. Don't worry about the little hole there. I will seal it up, but you can see this side of it's still quite a bit deeper than this side. But at least we do have a nice taper on there, just like they had it from the factory. But that's going to end this one here, guys. Couldn't make that one look pretty, but there has been a breakdown on Remington Nitro Steel 10 gauge 3.5 inch 1450 FPS 1.5 ounces of 2-shot. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.